Now let's get into this hypocrisy, because in November 2016, when Harry and Meghan started dating, Harry actually published a letter asking for privacy and for people and the media to back off, saying that he was concerned about her safety and their relationship was nobody's business. This was released through the palace, so it was official word, and it was from Prince Harry, which honestly, this is a great move for the beginning of the relationship. Meghan's not doing well. I think this is great if they actually want the privacy. Harry was not having any of the hate directed towards Meghan, saying that there's a lot of sexism, some racism, a lot of social media trolls, and the magazines are popping off, which is pretty typical for any female figure in the royal family. They are constantly scrutinized. There's really no pleasing anyone. When Meghan and Harry were dating, she was filming for the show Suits. And actually, there were headlines that Meghan was asking for time off from filming because she was struggling with this new relationship and all the attention. Now, it's pretty damning that they were able to get an official letter from the royals asking for this privacy. She even stepped away from filming, so they were going into total isolation, which is so different than how they behaved a few years later. Maybe they got comfortable with the press and they found a way to take advantage of it, but I just know that people can tell that they are not acting genuine.
They spoke about the difficulty of the media and being bombarded by paparazzi time and time again. Wouldn't doing a series like this just bring more attention on themselves?
It's a funny one, isn't it? As the palace, Buckingham Palace press office said after the Oprah interview, recollections may vary. I don't think there's any doubt that Prince Harry had an incredibly difficult upbringing in terms of that paparazzi. Actually, that was probably the part of it that was really most moving for me. Watching them on skiing holidays and Princess Diana saying, "Please, can I just have some time with my children to have a holiday?" That must be awful to deal with. But you don't go asking for privacy and then from almost the moment that you say you're stepping back, have a camera crew following you and courting that kind of media. If you work in the media, the way to stop a story is to say nothing. It's not to do a 6-part documentary.
Now, before this series even came out, there were some spokesmen from the royals who were trying to dismantle it and the story that, Harry and Meghan were trying to tell. They were also trying to find any little glimpse of something they could do to stop it from airing. For example, there was a black and white image used in the trailer of the couple going through the Queen's home, which the Majesty never approved of anyone filming in her home. So this image was not supposed to be used. They actually wrote out a a complaint from the palace saying that the couple never asked for permission to shoot inside her home, and they actually issued some kind of warning. But of course, Harry and Meghan are so far gone, they could care less. When it came to this series, the royals had nothing to say about it, so there was no statement from the family.
And driving up, and he said, "You know how to curtsy, right?" And I just thought it was a joke. I curtsied as though I was "Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty."
While there's no denying that Meghan had been treated fairly by the press, talking about your home country's government, like Harry talking about the royal family, it's just really disrespectful, not only to your country, but the reputation of the Queen. And I just don't think there's any coming back from that. Bethany Frankel, a former housewife, said, "If you're being trolled by the media, the royal family gave you the advice to say nothing because that's the advice that most famous people are given. If you add gasoline to a fire, the fire blows up even bigger." I feel like they, and Meghan in particular, just wanted to tell us more. So rightfully so, the British tabloids do not like Meghan and them disrespecting the family. And a lot of people like Piers Morgan, for example, a former host of Good Morning Britain, actually had to leave the show because he was part of the media problem with talking so badly about Meghan that, yeah, you don't have to like her, but you don't need to dismiss Meghan Markle's comments about wanting to take her own life. She said at one point she wanted to, end things because everything was so bad, and that's something that Piers Morgan said that he does not believe, which, keep in mind, how would Piers Morgan know anything about that? As I said earlier, Prince William was not happy about the series, especially how Harry tried to make him sound like he was a villain. Harry claimed that William had screamed at him. Quote, "It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me, and my father say things that simply weren't true, and my grandmother sit there quietly and take it all in." Meghan then delves further into details of her alienation, noting that she was perceived by the palace to be a threat, as opposed to an ally who could help modernize the monarchy. Modernize the monarchy. Wow. She should have led with that. I mean, maybe she did want to, but yeah, it did not go down easy. It was definitely not as simple as that. And while I do think everyone has the ability to tell their stories, the way that they describe their time at the palace is what I think rubs people in the UK the wrong way. Meghan talks about living in a small cottage on the grounds of Kensington Palace, stating that it sounds really regal. Of course it does. But the Nottingham cottage is so small. The ceilings were so low, Harry would bump his head. And when Oprah Winfrey came over for tea, she said that nobody would believe how small their home was. But viewers noted that many of the couple's complaints were coming from a place of privilege, and that the two seemed intent on dragging out their feud with the palace instead of simply moving on. And I don't doubt that it was a small cottage, but also at the same time, like, is this really the story you want to tell? Is this the most important part? Because a lot of people, I mean, in the United States, but also in the UK and around the world, they have bigger problems. So to watch your kind of governmental leaders talk this way, it's not, it is very privileged.
Cottage.
We're living on palace grounds.
Yeah.
Oh.
What? That doesn't good enough?
It's very regal. Of course it does. It says palace in the name. But Nottingham Cottage, it was so small.
The whole thing's on a slight lean.
It looks like bloody charming to me.
Would be hard when you get Uber Eats though. Kensington, no, not the palace, the cottage.
It was just a chapter in our lives where I don't think anyone could believe what it was actually like behind the scenes.
Okay. So here's the deal. He's lived there for a while before they got married. He's cool with it. She turns up and goes,
No.
Princess, not castle.
This person wrote, "It's just really weird to watch two people who keep screaming, we want our privacy, we want the press to leave us alone, and then what is their special they put on Netflix, showing them and their kids and their life? It's like the Kardashians, except boring. Where do you go with this? If this is your career, talking about how humiliated you were, part of the royal family, it's hard to relate to, and it looks pretty terrific to me. Like this entire little cottage that they were staying in. It's just like, yeah, get a reality check, please." And it's not like Meghan came from another royal family. She came from somewhat humble beginnings. So I just don't know why she's acting so brand new. You guys may remember hearing about her father. She's got an estranged father, and there was a letter that was leaked, and she never expected it to be leaked. She called him daddy, and people felt that this letter was leaked to pull at the heartstrings of the public. Actually, her former PR guru said this in court papers. Now, Meghan says that's not how it went down, because she actually sued, I believe the Sun was the UK newspaper publishing company that published the letter. And actually, this letter was written to her father after he was a no-show at her 2018 royal wedding. I think she only sued the Sun for about $1, so it was kind of like a Taylor Swift Scooter Braun moment. But in an appeal hearing, lawyers revealed there was some correspondence between Meghan and her former communications secretary, Jason. And they actually claimed that this letter written to her father was crafted in a way with the readership in mind. So when she wrote this letter, she had her friend Jason help her so that if it were to one day get leaked, it would look good on Meghan's part. Jason said in his statement that Meghan asked him to read the text of the letter, saying, "Obviously, everything I've drafted is with the understanding that it could be leaked." So maybe that Meghan isn't necessarily planning on leaking it, but it could be leaked. Like she's going to keep her copy of the letter handy. And Meghan must have been seeing the future because, of course, her father did that exact thing.
I suggested she write you a letter, and the Queen said that's a good idea.
Yes, the Queen never read this letter. It was a horrible letter. Cruel. Meghan had shared it with 6 other people.
A lawyer told the court that the letter was crafted specifically with the potential of public consumption in mind because the claimant appreciated Mr. Markle might disclose it to the media. And supposedly Harry was in on it too. They requested specific cooperation within the castle to make this letter, I guess, her dad is messy. Her mom is messy. Meghan comes from like a dysfunctional family, which I totally get, like most people do. So it is actually really like almost a little bit conniving that she knew writing this letter that it would eventually go to the press. Like she just knows her father that well that she's able to like think 10 steps ahead and how she's going to make herself look better. It's sad to see this father-daughter relationship play out in the media because clearly there are a lot of problems here, and Meghan doesn't really seem to have a solid family unit, which that can do some really terrible things to you if you don't have anyone supporting you. Ultimately, the judge ruled in Meghan's favor, saying that publicizing this letter was just awful, it was unlawful, and it was excessive. And even though some of the news publications lost in that battle, they weren't succumbing to Meghan and joining her side. This was not like a mutual agreement to be friendly going forward.
Let's create an entire tab on our homepage with her name and just run constant stuff on this litigation and twist and turn things to create an implant with members of the public. They're saying this was all part of my strategy and tactic to have a better reputation. Then the defense says, we'd like disclosure from you. We need to access your email and your phone for this case based on these terms. Sorry, what? What does that have to do with this lawsuit?
My darling wife has just been sent the skeleton argument of the ridiculousness of the mail case.
Archie wasn't even born when you guys published the letter that I wrote to my dad. They are making a fortune off of
The press, they will never settle. They will always push because they will use a privacy litigation to further invade your privacy like they did with my wife.
Now, this court case should have been a shift for Meghan. People should have seen her more as a victim and felt bad that they were posting the fake news and that she's got this complicated relationship at home. But really, people were focused on the fact that she had all these other people involved in writing this letter. Meghan ended up apologizing for misleading the courts over her recollection of the information given by her aides of the writer of this letter. She said, "I have at all times wanted to protect the privacy of those friends, while the defendant was, it seemed to me, doing everything it could to make this litigation as intrusive as possible." Now, going into 2020, after all of this beef, they decided that they're going to leave the royal family, but it did not go over without a fight. They claimed they were stepping down as senior royals, citing privacy concerns. Meghan then staged a paparazzi shoot. She's staring at the camera and smiling while almost dropping their baby. Now, I wouldn't say this is almost dropping, but she did end up suing over these photos being taken and published. And now, because they have all the paparazzi on their backs, even though, it didn't seem like she was really in danger from the paparazzi there, Harry wanted to have a lot more security. He felt like as a royal, the royal family should be taking care of them extra because they are so high profile now. While in the States, he actually requested that the UK starts to fund his personal security across the world. While his role within the institution has changed, his profile as a member of the royal family has not. So he wants to drop the title as a prince, but then still be treated as such. He's claiming that he can't even go to the UK now because he does not have the proper security, and he wants his children to learn about his country. So at this point, there's a lot of blasts of information from these two. We've got Meghan with the paparazzi smiling, but then suing them over it. We've got Harry over here saying, I don't want to be a royal, but I want the royal treatment.